Really? Really, cat? What are you... Hello and welcome. This was going to be my review of the Armiger Warglaive, but Maths Cat has decided to photobomb my review. This is my review of the Armiger Warglaive. Currently, the only way to get this model is to get it in the Forgebane Warhammer 40,000 expansion set, which will cost you £95. I'm putting a wild guess out there that Games Workshop will sell these separately and that they'll sell them for, I want to say 30, maybe £35, but I hope they do, and they may well sell them with a load of extra options and things. The lighting isn't the best today. I'm trying to do it in the sunlight, so bear with me. The model itself, very, very straightforward and easy to put together. I've totally glued mine. You don't have to glue the head, you don't have to glue the arms or the weapons. You can magnetize them as well. There is some scope of changing the weapons if they do have another sprue or a different set later down the line, in that if you magnetize these shoulder pauldrons, then you can just move the shoulder joint itself more vertically, and then the arms just come out. The reason why I glued mine is because I wanted them in very specific poses and I didn't want their arms to move about and stuff. I mean, this amount of movement is fine, it's quite solid, it's not going to go anywhere, but I didn't want the arms sort of spinning in their joints and things like that. I suppose with little magnets you could strengthen the joints up a bit, make them a bit more limited in their movement. But fantastic kit, really great model to build. Took me a little bit longer than normal just because I wasn't that used to it, but if you've built an Imperial Knight, this is going to be a no-brainer for you. It does only come with the two weapons, the thermal spear. I don't know why I called it the thermal lance, but I don't know, maybe thermal lance sounds a bit better, but the thermal spear and the Reaper chain cleaver, which again, I can't get over. A cleaver just seems to me like a bigger kind of weapon. Chain hatchet, maybe, or chain dagger, I don't know. But either way, I just can't get around chain cleaver. It's quite small as well. We'll be going through a big size comparison in a moment. I've only built one of these. I think you can change the legs for the other one. It's quite posable with the hips. I mean, if you put a magnet in, you can rotate the torso. You've got this extra little point defense weapon on the top. This is a melter gun. No real need to magnetize this, but you can if you wish to, and that just pops in there quite solidly. Once it's sprayed and it's got a bit of paint, then it's going to be even tighter. Yeah, I'm always dropping things on this channel, but yeah, like you can put it in one place and then push it down a bit and it stays, but as soon as you move it, it's quite loose, but you push it back down and it's solid again. So quite a good little design. I don't know if they actually designed it to, to fix in place like that. So lovely model, quite straightforward, easy kit to build. And the legs were very straightforward. Put it this way, the Wraith Lord I found more difficult to put together than this thing, alright? Plenty of details, got a nice little power plant there, it's got these long legs which are, got some armour on them as well. Obviously, apparently you can fit a person in there. It's going to be quite cramped, I would have thought. It's got a nice, decent range weapon and a very decent close combat weapon. And obviously it has the point defence carapace mounted weapon, which even a normal knight, well, normal knight doesn't have, but it does now. So spare parts then, let's have a look at these. So you get three, say heads, three faces, which I suppose you could magnetise and paint and then swap them over. It's not too difficult to do that. So you get this one, which is kind of like a Cyclops head. You get this one, which is similar to the vented mask, and then you get this one, which is more like a gas mask type thing as well. And then finally you get the heavy stubber, which you can just take the melter gun off and pop that one on, and it works exactly the same way. You just push it in a bit further and then it stays still. So that's a nice little addition that you don't need to magnetize it, and you can change the weapon. I say against hordes, it's only 3 shots anyway, but it could make all the difference because it is 36-inch range. So essentially with that heavy stubber, it does have an effective range of 50 inches, which is pretty decent. Okay, so they're the spare parts, so not many, but quite decent. I'm hoping when they do the model separately that they have another sprue in there that has a different weapons, maybe some kind of like Gatling cannon, and maybe some kind of fist maybe, and maybe a different carapace weapon like a rocket pod. Maybe it's just wishful thinking, but there's definitely a lot of scope with this model. It's a lot like the Imperial Knight model, lots of flexibility, lots of posability. It's a great addition, and it's a great addition to Mechanicum. So let's do some size comparisons. What I'm going to do is just move the camera a bit more level. So this is about as level as I can get the camera. So what I want to do is just show you some size comparisons with some Space Marines first. So here's a standard normal Space Marine. Normal Space Marine, as you can see there, barely up to the knee of the Armiger. So I'll show you it this way. So barely up to the knee there, nowhere near the waist. And then a Primaris Space Marine is definitely just past the knee. Yeah, hopefully that helps. So this thing is going to tower above, you know, your normal Space Marine troops and things. But I hear you ask, how does it compare to the Cryptek? Well, I have the Cryptek right here. The Cryptek is, yeah, he's quite tall, but yeah, it towers over the Cryptek. So as such, it'll tower over anything else in the box set for Forgeplane. And then I'll just compare it to some other Mechanicus units. So I've got some Secretari here, which the same size as Skitarii basically. They're the Titan Guard. These are the guys that are protecting my Warlord Titan. I've also got a Cataphron Destroyer, I think it is, with the plasma weapon that, thank you to the people that spotted this on the new Castellan Knight. The plasma culverin looks very similar to the much larger one on the new Castellan Knight. So maybe it's a much larger plasma culverin. So I can't wait to see, well, its range and its strength, because this normal culverin is a strength 8, AP -3. However, on a hit roll of a 1, the bearer is slain. So I'd like to see if that has any impact on the Castellan Knight, but we'll see. So thank you for spotting that out. It's been a while since I looked at these Mechanicus models, so it definitely shares a lot of similarities with the little ignition burner, with the plasma casing itself, and the coolant, or whatever you want to call it. So that's him next to a destroyer, next to a Castellan robot. You can see who is the new big robot daddy in charge, and I much prefer this aesthetic to these sort of robots. I mean, obviously these robots dated back, you know, many years. Anyway, you could say the Knight chassis is pretty old too. But yeah, there you go. Who is the new bigger, badder robot in the Mechanicus range? Definitely the Armiger. And on that note, let's compare it to an Imperial Knight. Here is a Castellan Knight, a mini Warlord Knight that I prepared earlier. You must be dreaming. So as you can see, definitely much smaller still than a Knight, but it's cute. It's a cute baby Knight. It's nice to have a few of these around a normal sized Knight, and definitely a great boost to an Imperial Knight army. Really looking forward to the Codex that'll have the Castellan rules in, and these guys. I think the Castellan Knights will be available at the Warhammer Fest, hoping alongside the Codex, and maybe possibly these Armigers separately. It'll be a big robot special just in time for Pacific Rim. Well, actually, I think Pacific Rim's out, but anyway, you get my point. I'll just move these models back a bit and move the camera up, just to give you a better size comparison. There you go. So, as you can see, the Armiger probably goes to about the shield of the Imperial Knight, just. Hopefully this size comparison is helping you. Obviously the Knight on the right hand side well, that particular knight is £85, but the ones with the fists and the carapace weapons are £95. So if you think that the Armiger is a little bit less than half the size, I'm looking at 30 or £35. If it's 40, then yeah, that's a fair amount of money, considering that the Redemptor Dreadnought is, I think, 40, and you get so many more parts in that than this, and more flexibility as well. So there you go, hope that helps. You can definitely see some of the design cues, what with the shoulder pauldrons, with the chainsword and the chain cleaver, with the feet. The Armiger's got the 3 toes, where the knight has got the 4. The pistons, the rear, it's got this little box part to its hips, same as the knight, and also on the back, the knight has this bigger sort of power plant casing, and the Armiger's got a little one, and the carapace armour doesn't go over the exhaust stacks for the Armiger, whereas on the Imperial Knight it does. It over covers it a little bit. So hope that helps. Also to note is that's quite flat on the chain cleaver, like the Reaper chainsword, but for the melter it's just flat, it's just flush. It's not like it's got this extra bit of detail that the knight does. So I hope that helps, and it gives you a nice little teaser, little look at an Imperial Knight ready for in a month or so. And this is the part of my review where I will be going through all of the rules for the Armiger Warglaive. Now you'll find them in the Forgebane book. I'm pretty sure they'll make an appearance in the new Imperial Knight 8th edition Codex, which I think will probably come out May time. They are a Lord of War choice, however, you can basically have them in a unit of 3. It says the unit contains 1 Armiger Warglaive. It can include 1 additional Armiger Warglaive, power rating plus 12, or 2 additional Armiger Warglaives, a power rating of plus 24. And each Armiger Warglaive is equipped with a Reaper chain cleaver, a thermal spear, and a heavy stubber. There is a string attached in that if you have more than 1, you've got this vehicle squadron ability. Is it really an ability? I don't think it is. But the first time the unit is set up, all of the models must be placed within 6 inches of at least one other model in their unit. From that point onwards, each operates independently and is treated as a separate unit. Would have been nice that if they could all separate as independent units from the start, but seeing as blast weapons aren't really around anymore, it's not as big a negative as you might think. So how much does this thing cost points wise? It's 12 power points for a Lord of War choice. Match play points cost, it's going to set you back 223 points. The Reaper chain cleaver is free. Oh, Merry Christmas. And so is the thermal spear. However, you are going to have to buy either the heavy stubber at 4 points or the melter gun, which is 17 points. So this thing with the melter gun is going to be 240 points, 227 points with that heavy stubber. It says that it's equipped with a heavy stubber. I'm not sure whether rules wise you can opt not to take it, as that's what it says it comes with. Please do put it in the comments if that is the case. If you can just go, well, actually, I don't want the heavy stubber, so mine's 223 points. So it's one of these units where the more it takes damage and it loses wounds, that affects its movement, its weapon skill, and ballistic skill. So its base stat line is movement 14 inches, weapon skill 3+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 6, toughness 7, 12 wounds, attacks 4, leadership 8, and a save of 3+. If it's got between 7 and 12 wounds, that's its stat line, but when it drops down to 4 to 6, its movement speed goes down to 10 inches, and the weapon skill and ballistic skill are both 4+. Then when it's only got its last 3 wounds, its movement drops to 7 inches, weapon skill and ballistic skill are also hampered, and they go down to 5+. So its weapons. I've equipped mine there with a melter gun, nothing out of the ordinary about that, other than it costs 17 points. Its range is 12 inches, so it's quite a short range. Assault 1, Strength 8, AP -4, Damage D6, and if the target is within half range of the weapon, you roll 2 dice when inflicting damage and you discard the lowest result. So you roll 2 D6, you get a 6 and a 4, obviously you discard the 4, so it's 6 plus the 8, which is Strength 14. You can have the heavy stubber instead for that carapace weapon. Its range is 3 times that of their melter gun, and you also get 3 more shots. shots. So it's 36-inch range, heavy 3, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1, and there's no abilities. So it's just your standard 3 shots there, hitting on 3 pluses, and most likely wounding on 4 pluses or even 3 pluses if there's something squidgy. Its main weapon though, which is probably one of the main reasons you'll get him, is the thermal spear. It's a 30-inch range, assault D3, strength 8, AP -4, damage D6, and again it's got the melter ability where if the target is within half the range. So it's a 30-inch melter gun, basically, that can have 3 shots. But then again, it could have 1. So it's just a long-range melter gun, really. So same strength and same abilities, same damage, all the rest of it. Its melee weapon times the strength by 2, so that's strength 12, not too bad. AP -3, which is decent, and damage of 3, which is good. The war gear options, of course, it can replace its heavy stubber with a melter gun, and its abilities, it's got an iron shield. So that means it has a 5+ invulnerable save against shooting attacks. So no invulnerable save in close combat. It's got its 3+ normal, it's got a decent toughness at 7, and it's got a lot of wounds, but as we know from Space Marines, you fire enough high strength shots at these things and it's going to cause them a problem with their saves of 3+. And then the other abilities are just what I mentioned, the vehicle squadron, whereby the first time the unit's set up, all of the models have to be placed within 6 inches of at least one other model in the unit, and then from that point onwards each operates independently and explodes. So if the model in the unit is reduced to 0 wounds, you roll a dice before removing it from the battlefield, and on a 6 it explodes, and each unit within 6 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. So that's quite good that it's 6 inches. Faction keywords, Imperium, Quest Allegiance, and Household. Other keywords, Vehicle, Armiger, Armiger Warglaive. It's a decent little unit. I think it's a great addition. The Onaga Dunecrawler probably can output more damage sort of shooting wise, but this makes up for it in melee. You know, it's got 4 attacks, which is quite decent at strength 12, AP -3. It's got a great movement speed of 14 inches, so it's got an effective range of that thermal spear of 44. However, to get the best out of it, you're going to have to be 15 inches or less to a target to get that extra D6. I think it's a great addition. I think match play points cost is quite high though for what you get. You don't get instant death, you don't get any kind of stomp attacks. It is just the 4 attacks with its chain cleaver. Also, you might get 1 shot with a thermal spear, you might get 3, but it's a lot of points to invest in something that has a random number of shots. They're going to be quite vulnerable to long range heavy weaponry wearing them down, or even going through that invulnerable save. They're going to be vulnerable to hordes, and also things like Terminators and units that have high strength close combat weapons. They're not going to get their invulnerable save. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the Armiger Warglaive. I will be doing a completely separate video where I'll be comparing this mini knight or mini warhound titan to a normal imperial knight, so stay tuned for that. I'll try and get that video up quite soon. What do you guys think of the Armiger? Do you think it's a great kit? Would you add anything more to the rules or reduce its points cost, something like that? Please do put it in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.